So hi, Danit.
Hi, Pam.
So I want to introduce Danit to all of our viewers. Danit lives in Jerusalem, and she's been a doula for 18 years and has lost count, but has been to at least 1,000 births, if not more. Danit also teaches doula training.
Yeah, that's the fourth course happening now.
4 years ago, she started the Strings of Light, which is equivalent to our Kintsugi program. And you've told me this beautiful story, this metaphor. Would you like to share that with your listeners?
Yeah. So it starts with Adyashanti, who's my meditation teacher, and I think all my students know that there's no class without an Adyashanti quote. So it started in a retreat. I go to an Adyashanti retreat every year, except in the COVID-19, which I didn't, but usually I do. So, and I think he was quoting somebody else. So it's like a quote of a quote of a quote already about this experiment that was done, and that they saw that when you put two string instruments in one room, and somebody plays the chord, a specific chord on one of the instruments, the other instrument, the same chord, vibrates without anybody touching it. And if the room has good acoustics, you could actually hear it. You could actually hear that sound. If the acoustics are not as good, still, if you'll put your ear next to that instrument, you will feel it vibrating. And later on, I was teaching a childbirth class, a private childbirth class, and the father was a cello player or a contrabass player. And I was telling them that, I don't even remember why. And he said, I'll show you. And he brought a contrabass and he brought a guitar. I was holding the guitar and he was playing the contrabass. And we didn't have the perfect acoustics, but I could really feel that string vibrates. And when Adya was talking about it, I don't even remember exactly what he was using it for. But what I heard was that if I can touch my own chord of compassion within myself, then there is a better chance that the chord of compassion for the person that I'm talking to, the storyteller or my student or anybody, that they'll feel their own chord of compassion vibrating. And I love that, because it's not like I'm giving them anything. I'm not giving them my chord. I can't. They've got to hear their own chord of compassion, and we all have our own chord of compassion. But if I can hear it well, then and play it, I can touch my own chord. Get in touch with my own chord of compassion, there is a better chance that whoever I'm talking to or working with will hear their own. And I love that. I actually hold that image when I speak to storytellers. I hold that image, and to students. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this Havis poem, which I'll read you these two lines. The heart is a 1,000-stringed instrument that can only be tuned with love.
And it really goes together with my image and with the feeling. It's the felt sense of the image.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it was in 2009 you learned Kintsugi journaling, and that you began doing it all the time, everywhere you went. And it became the most important thing in your life. You understand how your mind works.
Absolutely. I got really obsessed with Kintsugi journaling. I got really, really interested in it, and really, for a while, I felt it was all I did. I mean, I did everything else, but I had papers writing Kintsugi journaling everywhere, in my bag, on my bed, in my car, everywhere. And there was no course back then. I used to do my Kintsugi journaling and then send it to you by email. And I used to check my emails 100 times a day to see if you answered me. I was really I remember one of them very particularly, one that I was working on, feeling that I am not enough, like all of us. This is like this is the real epidemic. feeling we are not enough. So I was working about something, I don't remember the actual Kintsugi, but that I'm not enough. And then I had this insight that this sentence doesn't make any sense. I couldn't be anything but enough. That it doesn't make sense to say about yourself, I am not enough. And I sent you an email saying it, and you sent me an email back and you wrote to me, one day, Danit, you will not have to qualify, quantify, or justify yourself in any way. You will just be.
Oh,
And it shook my world because I was just happy from realizing I am enough. And then I felt like you're pushing me even forward and saying to me, you don't even have to say that. Even that is not needed. You could just
oh.
be. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. And at one point, after years of writing, journaling, I actually made a fire in the beginning of the Jewish year. And I had all those piles of lies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Piles of lies in my house everywhere. And I said, what am I going to do with all this? So I actually went and did like a fire in nature in a place not far from my house. And I still have that feeling in my body, how I'm feeding the fire, all this Kintsugi journaling. Yeah.
Well, that gives me this image of before we learn how the voices in our heads talk back and forth, well, we feed the parasite, which is the judge and the victim. We feed it fear. But I love this image of when you're feeling this great shift in you, you then fed this fear to the fire. And it became ashes.
Interesting thing was because I did it after years, that I wasn't feeling I need to get rid of it. I felt like this is not relevant anymore. You can take it, fire. You can take it, fire. It was not from my judge. It wasn't like, I don't want to.
That's it right there. Yes, you said it. You said it exactly right. This is no longer truth. It has nothing. It has no meaning. I can burn it now.
So, we talk a lot about birth as a heroic journey. And when you reflect on your own experience, your personal experience in giving birth and your heroic journey, what is something that you are able to take from your heroic journey, your treasure?
So one thing that I've noticed is that my heroic journey around birth was not the pregnancy and birth of my daughter. And you said earlier that I'm a doula 18 years. I'm a doula since she was born. So like, I think I went to my first birth 2 months after she was born or something. Wow. So yeah, my pregnancy and birth with her birth was not my heroic journey. But then later on, when I wanted to become pregnant again, I found out that it just didn't happen, and nobody really knows why. But for years, I was like trying to first solve it and find a solution for on the physical level, on the emotional level. I was trying to do birth art around it. I was trying to do everything, and nothing really worked. And I'm a hardcore optimistic, so I keep thinking that, okay, it's just going to work itself out. I'm going to find something. I'm going to realize something. I'm going to understand something. It's going to work itself out. It was not really an option in my head that it's not going to work itself out, and it didn't. And so that was when I was on the hook. That was my real little death. Going through that, I felt like having just one child is not having a real family. In Israel, very few people have one child. Eventually, I got to a point where I realized it's not going to happen, and there was a turning point, which was maybe my call to start coming back. And it was a conversation that I had over Zoom, actually, or maybe it was Skype back then, years and years ago, with a friend of mine, that she called me to say that she just gave birth. And instead of being happy for my friend that gave birth, I was sad. I was sad that I'm not going to give birth again. And it was a turning point, because I was just something happened there that I told myself, I don't want to stay like this. I don't want to cry every time a friend of mine is giving birth. I don't want to carry on this pain. I want to do something with it. So I started doing lots of things about it, and slowly and slowly and slowly it healed. But going back to your question, the treasure that I took was actually what surprised me most on my way up was that at one point, the pain was totally and completely gone. It was just not there anymore. It was just like I would expect it to come back, and for a while I was just like, okay, it will come back soon, and then it didn't, and time passed, and I just realized it's just not there. It's just like, it's okay. I have one child, and there's no anything added to this sentence. It's just what it is, and it's totally fine, and it's there's nothing else to say about it. It's just, it is what it is, in a very quiet way. And I've realized that often people believe that if they go through a very painful, heroic journey, then they'll forever carry a certain amount of pain. Sometimes people say, I'll forever carry a scar. Even if the pain, if the wound healed, there'll be a scar. And actually, in that heroic journey, for me, the surprising part is that I don't feel there's a scar. I feel very whole. And I feel that it helps me to help others, because I feel that when somebody tells me that's going to scar me forever, I can say, you don't know that. Maybe you don't know that.
Yeah, it gives you a vision that isn't necessarily absolutely true. So rather than going in agreement with them,
Yeah,
you give them just a little bit of hope that something else might happen.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, not to hold on to the assumption that this is like a life sentence. This is a really difficult thing to you going through, but it's not necessarily, the pain is not necessarily a life sentence. Maybe it is, but maybe it isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've been teaching birth story medicine courses for, well, you started in 2017. You've been very popular for the last couple of years. And the Alma program?
That's equivalent to part 2 and 3 in our program in birth story medicine.
Called Alma in Hebrew.
Could be translated to a healing birth processing. And it's just like the initials comes up as Alma, but Alma means world, the world in ancient Hebrew. And so it was nice that it came out with a meaning. It has a meaning.
And I know lots of things give you joy when you teach, but why don't you tell your listeners what's one thing that you'd like them to know that, really gives you bliss when you teach birth story medicine courses?
So it doesn't happen every class. But when it happens, there's a moment where I can see, even sometimes without the students saying anything, but sometimes also because they say something, that I can actually see a shift happening. Something that I say or that they say, and I respond to, that you can sometimes see it on their faces, or there's a silence for a minute, and I can see it, it's like it's tangible. Something is shifting in the energy, and it's like, ooh, like something, they're not going to see things the same as they saw that specific thing or a more general thing. Something really shifted. I love that. I know I love the moment that it happened to me in birth story medicine, and I love it when I can share this. So I think that's one thing. And the other one is that the whole idea of Kintsugi journaling and birth story medicine has shifted my perception and the way I look at life and made my life so much more with compassion that I just love sharing it. I just love sharing that. I feel that there's a lot of beauty in sharing this um, ability to touch this chord of compassion inside me, and then feel how it echoes from the other people, from my students, and also when I work, when I meet storytellers, it's the same thing. It's this moment where something magical happens.
You recognize it because you experienced it.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's
it's
reflected.
yeah, I think it's usually around moments where someone is able to accept a part of themselves that up till that moment it was
Mm.
really hard for them. I think that's what it is. I think it's a moment where someone was judging themselves, and all of a sudden they can see it differently, and there's this shift. And yeah, I love that.
And that's a beautiful thing. So that's the gift that you brought from your heroic journey. Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to sharing this with everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much for everything. Thank you sounds very, very, very small.
So I'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon.